All right. Well, Ron, let's we're gonna dig into some cyberpunk stuff here. So you pick a heck of a day because we got the cyberpunk out this week. Have you touched it or played it at all?
I played it a little bit on PC and on Series X.
Okay, on both. Okay, and can you let's start with you. What do you think so far?
So far, I give it a solid. I'm like, okay, maybe.
Solid. Okay, maybe.
That's fair.
All right.
I think that's the right
Maybe.
grade.
Okay.
That's the right score.
So what's putting you toward saying, oh, this is good, and what's maybe making you think, oh, maybe not so much?
Okay, I'll start with the positive.
Mhm.
Yeah,
that's
that's
what
good.
I like.
Yes.
What is positive about it to me is that it gives me some of the Fallout vibes, those RPG type vibes of like looting corpses. Do whether I want to do stealth, do I want to go in and go guns blazing? I like some of that. I like some of the cyberpunk stuff of upgrading, and the fact that the way they like, oh, you couldn't see your ammo count until you got the upgrade to see your ammo count. To me, that makes sense thematically. I think the world is somewhat pretty, more in the daytime than the nighttime than I thought it would be. And those are my favorite parts so far. The story, I'm just starting, so I don't want to fully judge it, but I'm not hooked at it yet. But those would be the positives.
Okay.
Okay, let's stay on the positive. Let's stay on the positive train. I think
Ron, you are a bastion of positivity.
Yeah, I like this.
It is the best.
It's
Thank you.
positively buggy. No, it's
That would be one of the negatives.
I think it is it has a lot of ingredients in this meal. There's a lot going on. They tried to put a lot of stuff in there. So it is dense with a lot of stuff. I think some of the designs are interesting. I like that you could drive a car. I'm sorry to say positive too.
You like that you can drive a car?
You can get in a car and you can drive around, and that's fun. And I like that you could use a sword. That's a lot of fun. I like using the sword. And I think some of the character creator stuff is pretty in depth, and that was fun. And the story's starting to pick up for me. It's starting to pick up. It's 10 hours in, and or 8 to 9, let's say, is when you kind of, for me, cross the threshold into like, oh, here's what we're gonna be doing in the game. Got it. And so then it started to pick up in a way to make the game feel like we're on track now. The rubber's hit the road. Let's start moving. Okay, now I'm switching gears into the other stuff.
I'm ready.
Okay, I'll kick some of this off, and then you guys
Go ahead.
Pick it up. I don't dislike the game. I think it's okay so far for me. But aside from I'm gonna push the glitchy stuff aside for now, because I think that will be fixed in a lot of cases. But now that the console releases are out, and it's the PS4 and the Xbox One versions, the PS5 and the Series X versions are coming next year. So these are the last gen consoles, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But just in gameplay wise, that there was not a lot of traction there for me until about 8 to 9 hours in. I think stuff, and I was trying to think about it today and yesterday as we've been talking about this game a lot. And I think things like Fallout always start, or maybe to a fault, start off by introducing you to as a character who's an outsider in a new world. You start in the vault, something happens, and then you are the odd thing in this wild, out of control world, right? And you're kind of picking all this stuff up. In The Witcher, you're the only sane person in an insane world, right? You're the last person who understands monsters and this relic of the past. And for better or worse, and not all stories have to do this, but in Cyberpunk, you're just kind of another person, not really special, which could be fine, but it just feels like you're going through some gun combat and some hacking stuff, and it doesn't. I feel like it's not saying a lot. There's not a lot of perspective there. It's just kind of living in that world, and that's fine, but it doesn't say a lot about what's going on. You're just kind of in there, and I feel like there's probably a lot to say. Like I feel like other games kind of are expressing some kind of commentary on it. But aside, and again, for like the first 10 hours, it's like, aside from, people have body augmentations and this, it's like, well, what's really going on in this world? Because it seems like a lot's different. and I didn't get a lot of that. So story wise, now I think I'm starting to get into like, oh, this is what's going on in this world. Like, but it took a long time to get there.
But you're saying, so basically there's just like a long runway of just kind of existing and just kind of being a part of the chaos of that world and not necessarily feeling like how you how you fit into it.
I mean, you're kind of like a low-level merc trying to rise up the ranks, and but by not having contrast in the world, I feel like you don't absorb, you don't get this kind of fish out of water sense. You're just living in this world, and you. I don't know, Jeff, you played, you're probably further than I am, right?
Yeah, I'm just under 30 hours.
Okay.
So like, yeah, you're right. I mean, you're definitely right about what your character perspective is. Like looking at this game, I do think all of the energy and all of the sort of, the investment in development definitely, is that of Night City, right? Like that is to me the star of the game. And I feel like nothing else kind of matters, right? Like nothing else is really that, not that it doesn't matter, but nothing really like rises above that threshold of importance in terms of like of what you play in this game, aside from maybe Keanu Reeves, to be totally honest. Like, and just to a quick hit on that, like going into it, I was a little on the fence, but like, I think he's great for what he is in this game. I think it actually is kind of a pleasant surprise, even though like who could get mad at Keanu Reeves? Like no one's ever mad at that guy, but like he just does the thing he's supposed to do pretty well. And I think as it's implemented into the game, I think it kind of nails it. But yes, like outside of your character and like the relationship to the world, like nothing seems to be more important than just kind of being in a cyberpunk world. Like that's kind of what the game is, just like you're having a great time just because you're here, and that's all we really need to do. And I mean, personally, from my perspective, like that kind of is all this game really needs to do. I mean, I'm getting that shit out of this game, like as much of that shit as I want. And, I think for me, like it is undoubtedly the thing you look forward to playing the most. Like when I go back and boot this game up, I just want to be in that city. I think once you peel off that surface layer, it's sort of emotionally kind of empty. There's just not that much going on in Night City. As much as there is going on, there's not a lot going on. And that trickles down from all of these systems they have in place that are I am just not incentivized to really seek out anything. I have all this cool shit at my disposal, but I couldn't care less. And the video I put up yesterday was like, hey, if you want to be that guy and you want to get into this game and, augment every organ in your body and replace every bone with, whatever it is, like, if you want aluminum freaking skeleton bones, you can get that, right? Like you can go down to the nitty gritty. You could find what shoe has the most armor, what bracelet will give you, a better stealth percentage. Like you can do all that. You could also just go in and shoot everyone and not feel any sort of weakness and any sort of like, pushback on any of that too, because the game's easy. Like you just kind of plow your way through every way you want to go.
There are difficulty settings, right? I assume you're playing on normal.
Yeah, I'm playing on normal.
Yeah. You got a lot of health items, I found.
I have like 111 health boosters. I've never had an issue where I ran out of health and I was desperately seeking. Sometimes ammo is an issue. But yeah, like, that's the thing. Like I'm having fun with this game. I love the spectacle of it. I love the circus, but outside of that, I think the side story stuff is mostly misses rather than hits. I'm playing it to just kind of see through the main storyline, which I think I'm pretty close to being done with. And then I don't know how much more time I'm going to spend in there.
So I think for me what's happening, and again, this is turning the corner now that I've got the MacGuffin, like I've got the thing that this is going to revolve around, and I've got the thing that makes you a unique character in this world. I've got all that stuff going for me now, so that has made the story propel further now. But that's hours and hours in. but I think the thing that now we'll get into some of the technical stuff. I want to be immersed in the city, but some of the gameplay mechanics and the bugs and all of this stuff keeps drawing me back out and pointing that finger at me and being like, remember, you're playing a game. And that's okay for a lot of people. That's fine. Yeah. Like, a lot of people want a game system, but it's, when you're doing stealth and you're doing that loop of like, throw the rock. Oh, what's that over there? And then, okay, get behind him, choke him out and be like, throw the rock. What's that over there? And, choke him out. And like a lot of the side missions have been that same loop. I'm waiting to dump the points in to be the cyberpunk stealth ninja I want to be, right? Like I want all those cool toys, and you get there hopefully in an RPG, but I don't know if you get there in Cyberpunk, and I hope you do. Like I want the cool. I want to be the guy. I want to be Gray Fox from Metal Gear, right? Like I want to be like some cool cyber ninja in this thing eventually, and get there. So I hope I've gone through looking through the massive talent trees, and I think I don't know, Ron, have you looked inside those things? It's just the pool of perks that are available to you, and I want the one that's like cloak, turn invisible, and stealth around and do all that stuff. And I hope it gets there, because that's in RPGs when you start that kind of exponential curve of becoming the most powerful thing on the planet. That's always, that power fantasy is always fun, and in a game that is about body augmentation and all this stuff, I want it to go extreme. Like you meet some characters, and I talked to Gersman a bit about this. You meet some characters in that game that have taken it all the way, that are like, oh man, you're just a squishy brain on a robot now, and you're just
you couldn't say no, could you? You
right.
had to get
right.
You had to max out everything.
You're everything, right? And like I want to be able to do that hopefully at some point, and I don't know if you can yet. So here's hoping.
You want to get down.
Crossed.
You want to get down to the point where the only thing that's left of you is your ring finger and a nipple. Otherwise, all machine.
I'm still human, though.
Gotta need both of those to stay married.
Or I want to go the complete opposite route of like, wow, I never did one body augmentation. So like I could walk into a room and hit like the EMP button and everybody just falls to the floor and I'm fine. But we'll see. That's a lot of RPG stuff, and anybody who's played RPGs, and this is kind of CRPG-ish, and some of its mechanics there. That curve can be slow. It can sometimes be steep. Depends how they balance the game out. So we'll see on that stuff. But let's talk a little bit about some of the launch issues this had. So people getting this on PS4, people getting this on Xbox One. Game kind of just came out at the time of this recording yesterday. A lot of different. I think people having a lot of different levels of patience for some of this stuff in the performance. Sounds like performance on the base PS4 is not so great.
No.
Sounds like some of the stuff even coming out of Xbox One not so great. And it runs on Pro and it runs on Series X, but I haven't seen people do comparisons yet on that. Have you guys seen anything there?
Some of that stuff's starting to come out, yeah.
Okay.
Ron, you said you played a little bit on the Series X. Like, have you found like a noticeable difference there compared to your PC playthrough?
I mean, I'm playing on my PC. I'm playing it on an older card, on a Titan from 2016, and so it's pretty comparable. In some places, it's better when I play it on Series X. I am playing it on the quality mode that lowers the FPS. So it actually, I don't have a problem with the looks of the game that much on Series X. It clearly is a last gen title, though. It obviously doesn't look anything like Call of Duty or anything that I've been playing on Series X or PS5 or close to, but I don't have a problem with it. My main issue has been a lot of things you guys are talking about, which is the lack of I'm only a couple hours in, maybe 2 at max, but just no direction of like, who am I? What am I doing? Why is this person calling me? Everyone's new to me, but also this person's very new to me, who keeps calling me a lot for some reason when I haven't even done the first thing they've asked me to do. Yeah. So I don't understand a lot about what's going on at all. It does the thing that I hate, which it just feels like it does not value my time whatsoever. The very first thing I pick up is like almost a 2-page thing to read that doesn't really add much at all. It's just like what you're talking about. Like some people get augmentation, some people don't. Is it good? Is it bad? Here's a list of points to it, and it's just like, oh, I didn't need to read any of this, and it was 2 pages long. And I hate stuff
in the
like
future,
that.
everyone knows everyone and doesn't know anyone at the same time. Like that's the story. Like this game, man. Oh, you're right with like it's everything is so front loaded, right? Like you have the baby before labor, right? Like that's how it works in this game. Like you jump right into it, and this game just cannot stop stepping all over itself, trying to feed you everything at once. I mean, look, I feel like I've seen similar kind of behavior before, but nowhere on the level of just like how much it tries to do so fast. And the quantity of everything.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So the volume, it's so much stuff. And like Ron said, you're like, I don't know what anything is, but everyone seems to know me. And it's not great. It's not a great sort of out of the gate feeling for sure. Like the game is literally fighting itself to like find the right spot to like slide in another message from someone who wants you to like, buy a car from them or something like that.
It's like
all right.
They do that, and they do it explicitly. And if even if you're a couple of hours in, you've probably seen this already. It's like they have this montage that happens that shows you all this like stuff that happened in the intervening time since you got to Night City to where it brings you up to speed. And it's a montage. And it shows you meeting people, the character going on like bus and doing all this stuff. And it's
called cyberpunk_hijinks.mp.
Right. And they show this montage, and it's basically like it's like they took the parts of like a new relationship that are all the interesting parts of getting to know somebody and like all the fun times and the first 3 months of this relationship, and then skip to like year 5 where you're like, what do you want to do tonight? Want to go to movies? You want to stay in and want to watch Queen's Gambit or something? I don't know. And like they montaged all the high fives and all the like, this is my new friend, this is your friend, oh my gosh, your friend's so crazy, and be like, I don't know, what's
their first child.
Right, exactly. And be like, do you want to go out anymore? I don't know, we have kids. Like
they jump you right to the point where it's like, why don't we make love anymore?
Yeah. Well,
but it does. I think I'm a little bit past that again, and now into the part where it's like, oh, okay, now we're up to the part maybe we should have gotten to 7 hours ago. Of this is why you're unique in this world. This is why it matters. Let's move forward. So that is hopefully a turning point, but it took a while to get there.
I'll tell you one thing I truly disturbs me in this game though.
Let's hear it.
The children. Have you any of you looked at the children?
What about the
children?
children?
I don't know what models they've made for because at first I was like, oh no, it's just some cybernetic thing, and it's an adult that just chose to be small, and that's their thing.
Wait.
And so I'm gonna go talk to them, but no, it's like a children's voice, and they're like, "You're not my daddy," and then it's just like you're just the models that they use for these children are just adult models that they've shrunken a little bit. Like they don't look like kids at all.
I haven't seen a kid in the game.
I'm too. So many there's just like tiny characters. And they all like I can't even talk to them because I'm frankly just scared. Like the one I went up to had like this crazy mask apparatus and was just like super intimidating and glowing red eyes. And I was just like, I could find another NPC to like, get in contact with here. But yeah, they are really kind of upsetting for sure. It's pretty weird.
The other thing I like is they have a lot of, or it seems like a lot, at least where I'm at, of gear you get, and that's all represented when you put it on. I think maybe the armor stats on it, and if swapping through that is sometimes a little rough. I could see a version of this game that has just like an auto-equip best that might be nice, because if you don't care what your character looks like, just put the best armor on for everything. The inventory stuff I find cumbersome. The way they handle it, the way the UI is designed is rough because you have a lot of stuff. You have a full inventory. You have a lot of stuff, and going through it and doing disassembly on stuff one at a time, and deciding what to sell, and not being able to mark stuff as like sell all. That's kind of cumbersome. But really, the core of it, the RPG mechanics, the role playing as my character so far just hasn't felt. I haven't felt that invested in my character yet. Like I feel like I'm when the options come up that I can pass a check on, I pick the thing that I pass the check on, and I'm not sure if it is pushing the needle forward. I've replayed some scenes a couple of times, and it does seem like they just come back into a point again, right? Even if I pick the like nomad check or the tech check, it seems like it just funnels back into what happens if you pick the other thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few forks in the road where you can kind of manipulate a segment. I've heard people talking about long-term consequences
Or payoffs.
that that
Okay.
sort of come to fruition, but I mean, I haven't really noticed. I mean, maybe if there was a way to somehow have like a workflow where you could like follow that, but I haven't noticed
Yeah.
something that has been truly transitional. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I hate going into the menus. I
It's
hate
rough.
getting in there. Something about it just doesn't mesh with my logical sort of like brain work, where I'm just like, like I said, almost 30 hours in, and I'm just sort of like, every time I hit that that menu, the horizontal menu, I'm just like, wait, okay, what am I doing again?
I mean, no joke. There's like there's at least 15. Like I think, and that's not hyperbole. I think there's about 15.
I know, like, and
menus.
they're all like oddly layered.
Yeah.
Like everything either goes horizontal or vertical, and then sometimes they don't. And when you're using a controller, sometimes you can make your way over to a thing, and other times you have to use like the sort of manual cursor. It's not great, but like I said, thankfully you don't really have to spend a lot of time there if you don't really care about those granular details of what's going on. And with the whole notion of like the RPG-ness of this game not being that important, I feel like you can get, it's just not important,
Well,
and
if you choose it, not like, I feel like for me, I want that, but like I can understand you can make it played as an action game, right?
Right, and that's my point. Like, I want to be like, to me, this game is way more of an action game than it is kind of an RPG, and I want. I want to be not forced, but I want to be shown why I should be doing
that's
the
a
RPG
great point.
stuff, and that's what's not there.
Yeah.
And for me, it just turns into like this, eye candy thing that I've been playing this and enjoying it, and that's the fucked up thing about this. It's like this game upsets me in many ways, but I still am playing it because I'm finding a lot of fun in it, and that doesn't happen a lot. So that's interesting.
I mean, I haven't played it yet, and I'm debating when I'm even going to do that, because I think when I do
wait.
Yeah, like when I do, I'm eventually I'm going to want to play it on console, because that's just where I generally play the most of my games. But like all the stuff I've seen, like watching you through the quick look yesterday, the footage I've seen out there, obviously there's some very extreme edge cases of like, base consoles and other things that are not working extremely well. But this feels like it has all the hallmarks of a game that they just took a long time to find the fun in while they were making it. Like, they were throwing a lot of different systems at a wall. They're trying all these different things. And then when it came time to, for the rubber to hit the road and to actually make the fucking game, they maybe did not have as much time to make all those things work in concert the way they maybe would have liked to. I don't know this for certain, but it has that feeling of a game that was experimental for too long, and then they had to finally make a product, and it just doesn't seem like they got all the way there with it.
Yeah, something's going on where like the systems feel imbalanced and they don't feel like they talk to each other well.
Yeah,
and I think
disjointed.
That becomes kind of obvious, where it's just like, oh damn, a lot of work went into this thing, but
not enough into this other thing. And also, when these two things combine, that shouldn't happen.
Yeah, and you're
that's
just like,
the number one thing I feel. I don't mean to interrupt you, Jeff, but is that it's just like, it just feels like their priorities of wherever they spent their resources or their time was out of whack to me. It just feels like they were like, the city looks great, and then we got to get a bunch of dongs in and decide
many dongs.
There's a dong quota. Yeah.
One of my biggest pet peeves, and on the other end, I'm going to give a compliment because I like to be positive again, is the fact that there are more pubic hair options in this game than there are regular black hairstyles in this game. Jeez. When I go to make a character, and you tend to go to try to make a character that looks like me, and I couldn't because they just have a short fade. They don't have like a regular black hair natural haircut, but they have 5 different pubic hairs to choose from. Like, so to me, it's like, where's your priorities on this RPG? If you want people to dive in and get deep, and you're saying that you're going to have all these options, then there should be all these different hairstyles. And I want to give particular props to the game that I didn't think would have it like that, which is Immortals Phoenix Rising, which has amazing black hairstyles in it and made my character look wonderful. And I was like, I did not expect to see this in that game. So I want to give props to that.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think the tone of that game too. I mean, if you talk about like representational stuff, like there are clearly issues with that. You know, the way they represent trans people in that game, the way they do some of the voice options, deciding what your how people are going to gender you is like just misguided, and seems at the very nicest I could say misinformed. At the meanest I could say it's offensive. So
ill-conceived.
Yeah.
Since I don't work your industry, I'm going to say a lot of the things I see in that game seem to be purposely offensive, just in the way that every black character I've met in that game has spoken exactly how I thought they would speak as soon as I saw them. And anything I see like that is just like, oh, I get it. There's some edgelord shit in here from
a lot of edgelord.
Oh yeah,
going on here, and you can hide behind it and say that you didn't want to do it on purpose or you didn't know, but I people can see it. Smart people know what you're doing.
Yeah. So yes, and like you run up against some of that stuff, and you're like, okay, like you sort of is like, is this the world that is this cyberpunk, whatever, is this just a cyberpunk world? And it's like, well, if you're like, I don't want to be here, then it's not working, right? If you're like, well, maybe you could be like, that's the fiction we're in. And it's like, well, if I don't like spending time in your fiction, or then that's not an enjoyable time, and that's going to differ for varying people and stuff like that. But like for me, enjoying the world is the whole thing, right? Is if you're in that thing, you're like, ugh, I'm going through the motions of choking out people, but every time I'm doing it, I'm not enjoying this atmosphere. Then there is a cool trait and I want that to be maxed out on this game. Like I want my Cyberpunk to just be cool as hell, and no matter what that is, and an enjoyable world. And it's not quite there yet for a lot of reasons. And so it's like it winds up being this kind of middling experience for me so far. I'm hoping that some of that's bugs get patched out. Maybe some of the just kind of more on its face offensive stuff is switched up, or people maybe it was not intentional, and if it was intentional, fuck you. But like if it was not intentional, maybe better angels prevail, and that stuff also gets fixed. But this game could use more work, I think, is really my end take on it. Like without a doubt,
it could have taken many more months in the oven for sure. Like,
could have gone that Halo Infinite route.
Yeah. Did you know that's delayed?
I just I don't know, like talking to people, I think it's very clear like this game had to come out in 2020. I also think there are like so many other variables at play with just like other outside obligations. I mean, there's a good amount of product stuff in there. There's probably make goods that had to be locked and loaded and sealed and delivered by the end of the year. Like I'm sure, I mean look, like eventually you got to put the game out, right? Like I get it. But
again, that's why I would want to have a lot of respect for the teams that like for them delaying Halo Infinite.
Sure.
Like, this is so important to us that even though we're going to have to piss off Doritos and Monster Energy drinks, you're going to have to hold on to those cans for a full year. But this is more important in the long term to get this game right. And to be honest, like if you told me like, oh, we're going to make another Cyberpunk game, or even if you say, oh, I'm interested in another CD Projekt Red game, which like I wasn't the biggest fan of The Witcher, but I understood why people were fans of it. I understood things, and to me, that's what made me excited about this game. It was like, oh, you're getting me out of the fantasy realm, which I don't really have an affinity for, and into more of the sci-fi cyberpunk stuff that I do with a developer who I've trusted and heard so many great things about. So I'm buying it no matter what. Now, if you're telling me they're making another game, I'm like, I don't know about these people. I don't know what they do.
And like we've seen that before. There's a tail on some of that stuff, because you see companies that, and I hope they don't, but they go through some of these arcs. Like, remember Crytek with Crysis, and everybody was like, look at Crysis. It's a technical powerhouse. Look at the gameplay stuff. And I feel like it doesn't take too many stumbles, especially when your biggest thing is like, we are a technical powerhouse, and then something comes out and it's a little buggy, or it's a lot buggy, or the gameplay starts faltering. And like, you know, Far Cry went a different way, and you know, now Ubisoft makes them, and that's a totally different thing. But you know, that you have to keep that track record up if you're a big hitter in that space. And I agree. Like, if this had come out and was at the very least, again, putting some of the really just kind of offensive stuff aside, but at the very least, a knocked it out of the park technical powerhouse, I feel like people would still be talking about, like, wow, this is the game you put on your TV to show people, and you call in the room and be like, look at this. But I'm not even sure it's visually quite there for me. Like, it's.
I mean,
you do? You think it's?
That's the one part of this game where I'm just like, oh wow.
You think? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, did you turn all those effects off, like the chromatic aberration and all that stuff? Because apparently that stuff all makes that game look a lot worse.
I haven't altered anything.
Okay.
Visually, I am playing it ray tracing on ultra. The only thing I didn't do is there's a mode, there's like a ludicrous mode above ultra I haven't tried out yet, but I bet the 3080 can handle it. But I've been playing it on that CX, on that 4K CX, and it looks unfucking believable.
Okay.
I mean, I'm definitely
impressed.
I mean, it gives me some hope for when the PS5 and Series X updates come out, that like at least those versions will look nice. You know, if not as good as the PC at its max settings, like it will still look good. But
it's so weird. The one wonky thing I'm getting is whenever like you have to turn on the mirror when you want to look at yourself, and whenever I have a reflection of just myself, game bugs out to like 2 frames a second.
Mine has done that also.
Isn't that weird?
It also did it in like a cutscene once or twice when it was like just kind of like started just chugging like sub 1 frame a second, and just was like, and then it caught up and it got itself together. But something's going on there. I'm sure that's a patchable thing. And what was the other thing I wanted to bring up? Oh, the DLSS seems to be working just. So you have it on. You have it on most of the time.
I have it on auto.
Okay,
that's the default setting. And the one thing I did notice is HDR can be a little wonky through PC. There's 2 different HDR settings on it, and I had not even heard of them. I had to look them up and sort of understand what they both do. And if you just turn HDR on compared to the non HDR version, I think it looked worse until I really started to understand how to tweak, the paper white settings and then the other settings. I mean,
HDR, I hate HDR adjusting in anything.
HDR is not CD Projekt Red's fault.
Like, we're all of a sudden like TV calibrators. I'm like, no, like it used to just be freaking, brightness, and now it's like, well, how do you want the edging chromatic? Like, you're like, no.
I do think that is the one failing of HDR as a system, is that it is never communicated well how that stuff is supposed to be made to look good. It is never communicated exactly what it's supposed to be doing. Like, yes, you're getting more color range. What does that actually mean in the grand scheme of things?
Well, no, like I'm with you, Alex. There's HDR. Good HDR, good implementation of HDR is fantastic. Like,
yes,
Dolby
it totally
Vision
is.
Show on Netflix is out of control.
Yeah.
But the problem, like you said, is that you just don't get a lot of good settings.
There's no feedback.
On
it doesn't give you the feedback that you need.
Right. I have seen good tutorials that kind of like you are able to follow, with the logo things. And when HDR is implemented well and those settings work well, I think you can have good success with it. But a lot of these settings where the game just assumes you're some calibrator, it sucks. It totally sucks.
Can you see the logo now? Can you see is it too bright?
This logo should look barely invisible.
The one in the middle should look slightly, barely more invisible.
What does barely invisible mean?
This one is more ghost-like. This one is ectoplasm-ish. So
close your eyes for 3 seconds.
We need this logo to be ethereal. Can you make it ethereal?
Stare into the sun for 30 seconds, then blink your eyes at the TV. If you still see the logo, take it down to 5. So I'm just my kind of wrapping up thoughts here, not wrapping up, but one last thing I want to say is this is from Ron. You brought it up before. This is from the makers of The Witcher. I like the Witcher series.
Oh.
This game is so different from The Witcher. If you're looking for a Witcher-like experience, it is not this game. The Witcher, I feel like I can't even get to where they're similar. They both have menus, and you
they are ostensibly role-playing games.
You can call your horse and you can call your car in this one, but
well, the thing is, I didn't necessarily want this game to be like The Witcher, obviously, but the thing that that has been said here that actually is like the most disappointing thing from hearing people playing about it is like the side missions are why I liked The Witcher 3. Like the main quest was good, but like the stuff off the margins, the stuff that was going on in the background of that game, just like the side ventures of that game, I think are its highlight. And to hear that like that stuff feels kind of a melange of samey stuff, like doesn't really like that's really disappointing.
So I think what happens there is thinking about this is that The Witcher benefits from you being on a horse and kind of samurai style wandering into town and like what's happening. Go to here are these small communities you kind of wander into and kind of figure out what's going on. Those are my favorite parts of The Witcher. In the bigger cities where you're just bumping into NPCs are not my favorite parts. And that's all of Cyberpunk. You're in the city kind of stumbling into back alleys or stumbling into NPCs. And The Witcher is very much like, well, hello, stranger, what's happening? And like, why is this person missing an arm? Werewolf attacked him. And then you're like, well, that doesn't sound right. Let me investigate.
Also, The Witcher didn't have a situation where cops would just magically spawn in behind you the second you bump up against an NPC wrong. So like that's maybe also a knock against it.
At least by the enhanced edition. The Witcher also had its bugs early on.
We didn't even bring this up, but I want to hear what you guys think. Like, there needs to be a third person mode for this game. Like, I hope that gets
outside of the car. You mean?
Yeah,
because the car has third person, but the person,
third person. Yeah, I mean, and I hope it's like a GTA thing where it just finds its way in at one point. But I just think, especially with how much you're supposed to give a shit about what you look like. I mean, come on.
You want to see that penis dangling out of your pants like it shouldn't be. Like you want to see that full on.
I wonder how much
physics.
I wonder how much your character animates well in that world in third person. Like you avoid that entire problem being in first person, and like
it can't get any. Can it get a lot worse than what we're seeing? Like
not a lot worse.
I mean, look at. Have you again? After through the initial load on the mirror and you try to smile or pout or do any of those emotes and your character does nothing. Like
it kind of looks like your face is just being like lightly electrocuted in different ways so that it's sort of like grimacing different, but that's kind of it.
Yeah.
I was getting stuck in a situation where Misty, the Ripper Doc's assistant, her eye, it's in my video. You can go check it out. Her eyes were rolling in the back of her head a bunch.
Whoa.
And like she would like warp into view all of a sudden, and then like her eyes would be like up, and you're just like, whoa. You're like, why are your eyes rolled back in your head? What's happening?
That's Cyberpunk, baby. She put rock tumblers in her eye sockets.
I'm just like, oh my God. And then it is truly creepy and unsettling, especially when you have those cutscenes of like a really well rendered character and it like sits down in front of you and talks to you, like that stuff's engaging. And then when you see their fucking eyes roll in the back of their head, you're like, Christ, what is happening? It is traumatic.
So that's some of the bug stuff that I hope gets fixed, but they can definitely pull you out of the game. I think I mentioned this on one of the other 7 things we talked about Cyberpunk on, but I had a very major, probably the major pivotal scene in the game where somebody was stuck sliding across the floor the entire time. And it takes place at the top of an apartment building where somebody very important is going on and
telling you stuff.
They're just sliding across the floor back and forth as they're having a super serious conversation, and my character's like, "Oh my God, this is so serious," and this dude is just like, stuck in a pose.
They do that scarecrow, like the scarecrow.
The T-pose, And
they're like, one character's like, "Get out of here," and he's like, slide his way out.
I saw a couple of streams last night from people playing on the console versions where they were characters like T-posing in random scenes, and if you walked up to them, the game would just flat out hard crash.
Yeah, so hopefully that stuff gets fixed.
The little trees thing is so weird.
That was
Have you seen
ridiculous.
Yeah,
that?
that's fun.
I guess Jason lost that when he updated to the latest NVIDIA driver. Like that stuff
Yeah.
was there, and then he did the driver update, and those tiny trees were gone. But so RIP tiny trees, I guess. But that was
For
a
now.
while. That's a fun stupid. That's not like an angry stupid. You know, like I don't get mad at the game for that.
So I will say on my PC, I had been playing with not the latest drivers before yesterday, before I did the quick look. And the settings on the PC were just all over the place. Like it was running better in Ultra than it was on Ray Tracing Medium. Ray Tracing Ultra was running better than Medium. Certain parts of the city, I was doing fine. But then when I updated to the latest drivers, it became more in line with the performance I expected. Where like, oh, I shouldn't be able to run this on Ultra. This now runs framey, and Ray Tracing Medium runs better. So it actually destroyed my performance a little bit on the best setting, but made it more of what I expect that game to be like and kind of line up. So hopefully more patches come through, driver issues come through. Game's coming in hot. Cyberpunk 2077 available on PS4 and Xbox One, with PS5 and Series X versions as free upgrades next year when that those versions come out.
I mean,
they've said free.
Yeah, definitely free. I mean, I am not going to sit here and say, I don't know if they're coming out next year, but they have not given any dates.
Yeah.
And I don't know when that's going to happen.
We don't know. Yeah. And the PC version. So,
yeah.
More vagina options as well.
Yes,
Need
please.
it. Okay.
Genital variety, please.
No vagina options, penis options. Yes, vagina. I've never seen two vaginas that looked alike. It's gotta be multiple vagina options.
We need some sliders. Just stop with the numbers. Just give us sliders.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that is not
Sliders.
slang. I just mean the user interface sliders.
Penis 2.
Penis
Yes.
3.
Penis 2.
So yeah,
Penis 2.
I'm kind of glad it's out in the wild, and seeing how other people are interacting with the game. I think everybody's mileage is going to vary, and their patience for what they like in games are going to vary. And you know, we'll see how it goes, and see how CD Projekt Red responds. I believe this game is selling very well, so I don't think financially they're going
Almost assuredly.
I don't think they're taking a hit on this one.
Yeah,
but
you don't want to WWE 2K yourself.
It's what it says on the wall in a lot of studios, I hear.
We'll be playing Cyberpunk Battlegrounds next year.
Cyberpunk 2K77.
We'll see. All